One day, I wanted to grind some revs, so I went down to the crypts and killed a tier 5 rev. Was how it was supposed to go, but instead, it went like this. This shouldn't have been a surprise considering I had terrible stats compared to the absolute beast that is the tier 5 rev. So, how could I beat it using only craftable gear that is actually obtainable, and how the hell does that have anything to do with fish or sugarcane? Hello, Editor Jack here. Just letting you know this was all filmed during these dates, so if something feels outdated, it's probably because it is. Anyways, back to the story. The most optimal setup I found would be Frozen Blaze armor with an Emerald blade, but those alone just aren't going to be enough. I would also need some sort of healing, a truckload of talisman, and to max out the armor and end blade to the best of my abilities. This, along with a good amount of extra money left over for the purse and wiggle room, would cost me around 250 million coins. Now, how was I going to get that? Through sugarcane and fish, of course. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. At that moment, I just wanted to do it with the least amount of work possible. Now, what comes to mind when you think of making money in Skyblock without doing anything? That's right, minions. And you know what else? Farming.
But Jack, farming takes lots of time. It's really boring, and plus, it doesn't make that much money.
Well, you see, it does take a lot of time, but if I already waste a lot of time watching anime, you know what takes no effort and lets me do just that? That's right, farming. I already had a pretty max sugarcane farming setup, so there was nothing else to get there. But on the other hand, my minion setup wasn't the greatest. So I decided to spend a couple million coins on white gifts, hoping to get some snow minions. I also crafted some more minions to increase my minion slots. The crafting of the minions itself went fine, but after giving out all the gifts I got, I only got one snow minion. So I decided instead to just upgrade my lapis minions, because while they aren't as good as snow minions, they're still pretty good for money. And with that, my minion setup was all complete, and now all I had to do was farm. But when I went to grab my sugarcane hoe, it was gone. After searching all of my storage and browsing the internet for answers, I realized that if you put a farming hoe in a chest, it might bug out and disappear. But luckily, thanks to my minions, I had enough money to purchase another hoe. But a little thing about farming tools is that they get better the more you use them. So that tier 3 hoe that I had already farmed a lot with made a hell of a lot more money compared to the brand new one. This sucked, but I pushed on and began to farm. Once I reached around 40 million coins, I realized that I didn't just have to leave my money in the bank. I could invest it into certain items in the bazaar and make even more money. So, I began scouring the bazaar looking for anything that might be profitable. The best item I could find was fuming potato books, as Paul was mayor, making them cheaper to buy in dungeons, which also made them cheaper to buy in the bazaar. So, I poured all 40 million of my coins into fuming potato books and began to farm even more. With this newfound hope of reaching my goal even a little bit faster, I farmed a lot, which got my elephant pet up to level 100 and 10 million sugarcane farmed on the sugarcane hoe, making my sugarcane output even better. After only about a week's worth of waiting, all of my fuming books sold. This, combined with all the sugarcane I farmed, brought my total up to around 75 million coins. I kept farming and looking for another investment, and only after about a week, a new one came up in the form of Mayor Jerry. This would buff my farming outputs, as while farming, I would also be able to get Jerry boxes, and thanks to Jerry copying other mayors' perks, I would be able to again invest in fuming books if I was online when he had Mayor Paul's perks. So, for the 5 days Jerry was in office, I farmed as much as I could to maximize the number of Jerry boxes I got, and luckily, during one of those times, Jerry was using Paul's perks. So I poured all of my money into them, hoping to make a profit, which was quite risky as now I was dealing with 75 million coins instead of just 40. And that risk, unfortunately, did not play out so well. For the first couple of days, the price of the fuming books didn't really change that much, which demotivated me a bit, but it was fine. But then something quite unfortunate happened. This meant for the whole period the bazaar was disabled for, I could not access any of my money and there was no way for it to go up in price either. So I did the only thing I could do. I farmed. Just like I had during Jerry, I farmed as much as possible, and with all the farming came an overwhelming amount of anime consumed, but also farming upgrades. I was finally able to get 16 Turbo Cane books to craft into one Turbo Cane 5, which was one more thing that helped me make just a bit more money. And luckily, a bit after that, the bazaar was back, which meant I finally had access to my fuming books. But for reasons unknown to me, instead of the price rising, they ended up dropping even more. So after some more waiting and farming, they rose back to the price that I bought them for. So I decided to cut my losses and sell them, which that 75 mil along with all the sugarcane and Jerry boxes brought my new total to around 130 million coins. Over the next few weeks, I farmed and looked for something else to flip. I couldn't invest as Mayor Paul wasn't in office, but when I collected my fish minions, I realized that fish prices were unusually high. Over the next couple of days, I checked in on them and realized that enchanted fish prices vary from 2 to 3k per. So if I wanted to, I could put a buy price in for them at 2k, wait for it to fill, and then sell them for 3k, giving me an extra 40 million coins. So I decided to do just that and put in my order and wait. After a few more days, it filled, so I relisted it for around 3k per and waited some more. But just like before, they didn't go up. But luckily or unluckily, another problem arose for me to fix. As I stated at the start of the video, I wanted to max out the armor and end blade to the best of my abilities. To fully max it, I would need to 5-star them too, as I wanted to be able to use frozen blades in dungeons. Unfortunately, to 5-star frozen blades, it requires a whole lot of ice essence, which is also quite rare. So I turned my attention to dungeons and started grinding floor 5. After a couple of hours of grinding and barely getting any ice essence, I realized that it was going to take way too long to get the essence I needed to 5-star. So I decided to make a new plan. The plan was to only 3-star my armor and use a tarantula helmet instead of a frozen blaze helmet during dungeons, as I already had enough spider essence for that, which would decrease the total number of frozen adventures I need to kill from 210 to 88. And since I already had 200 essence, I would only need to kill around 40 more frozen adventurers, which, while still quite hard, is a lot more manageable. Another good thing about grinding floor 5 is that it drops Legion books, which I would also need if I wanted to fully max my armor. And again, if I wanted Legion 5 on my armor, it would take 64 Legion drops. And since I didn't want to wait that long, I decided to buy every Legion book that I dropped, but once I got enough ice essence, I would stop grinding floor 5 in total. And so, I started grinding. And when I was grinding, I realized the 2 main RNG drops from floor 5 are completely useless to me. But there is a third, even rare drop that I might be able to use, since if I were to drop it, it wouldn't be my main weapon, but instead a support weapon, which could fit in the rules. But who knows, I'll worry about that when I actually get it. Wait, what? Isn't that super rare? What? Now we're in a sticky situation. I bought it just in case, but I'm not going to use it yet. What do you guys think? Thanks to this drop, I was even more motivated and kept grinding more and more. And wouldn't you know, after only 10 more runs, another rare drop decided to come my way. No way. I bought it because I would eventually need it for the museum and I wanted to save myself from even more grinding. And plus, I got a flex that I got 2 of the rarest drops from 4-5 in under 30 runs. After getting the chest plate, nothing else eventful happened. I just kept grinding and grinding and grinding until eventually I reached my goal of 350 ice essence. And thankfully, during all that grinding, the prices of enchanted fish went up. So I sold them for a decent profit and put in another order for more fish. And once the price of these fish went up, I would finally have enough money for everything. And so I waited. And while I waited, I decided to craft myself a blaze pet. I wanted to craft it now as there's only a 20% chance of getting a legendary pet when you craft it. This means that if I don't get it, I'm going to need to upgrade it in cat, which would take 14 more days. So I crafted it, and as expected, it was epic. I then shipped it off to cat and started farming carrots. Farming carrots would let me unlock the recipe for carrot candy, which would make leveling up the blaze a whole lot faster. So I headed to the hub with the rookie hoe and farmed some carrots. Luckily, this grind didn't take the whole 14 days, so I had a little extra time to get a bit more money from farming. And after a few days of doing that, the blaze was done, but the fish had barely risen in price. So I spent the next few days in waiting, and then I realized I shouldn't wait anymore. Derpy getting elected would speed up the things I needed to do once I got my armor. So I decided to sell the rest of my fish now and craft the armor and sword, as I couldn't waste this opportunity. Now the main reason I wanted to start grinding now was to level up all my slayers, which thanks to Derpy would take half the time. And it was also the perfect opportunity to put my gear to the test, as now all the mobs were double HP too. The first slayer I grinded was Tarantula, as I wanted to unlock the Tarantula helmet that you get at Spider Slayer level 6, and let me just tell you, this armor set is no joke. I was melting through these spiders, and getting to Spider Slayer level 6 was easy. The next slayer I wanted to grind was Wolf Slayer, as I wanted to get the Mana Flux Power Orb to help me heal, which is unlocked at Wolf Slayer level 6. And while Wolf Slayer is a lot harder than Tarantula Slayer, with this armor it was a breeze, and I got to Wolf Slayer level 6 a bit slower, but still it wasn't too bad. After doing that, I got a bit sidetracked by the bestiary, as every 20 bestiary milestones you get 1 million combat XP, which would not only level up my blaze pet a lot, buffing my frozen blaze armor even more, but it would also level up my combat skill a few levels, which, if you don't know, each combat level you get, you also gain a % increase on your damage, thus increasing your damage. I started doing that, but then I again got sidetracked, this time by the Crimson Isle. Going there for the bestiary was the first time I had ever gone to the Crimson Isle, and now that I had gear that could actually damage the mobs, I wanted to explore instead of just killing random mobs. So I did a bit of both. I leveled up my bestiary while also completing the first part of the L quest. I then grinded the dojo a bit, unlocked the green belt, and joined the mage faction. Once I got bored of that, I finished up the rest of the milestones I wanted to do, giving me 2 million combat XP and 2 combat levels. The last slayer on my list was Zombie Slayer, as you need Zombie Slayer level 7 to even spawn a tier 5 rev, which I didn't have. So I started killing a lot of zombies, and I mean a lot of zombies. And now with all that, I was all prepared. It was time to assemble everything. But I needed to be online for a spooky festival, as some of the talismans I wanted were only available from the Fearmonger. So I waited a couple days, and boy was I glad I did.
Wait, it literally says in theory.
Now this bizarre update might not seem that insane for some, but for me this was crazy. For most people, it just changed the place you can buy things, but for me, it allowed me to buy things I normally wouldn't be able to get, and the most important of these being enchanted books. The bazaar now has every type of enchant, which means I also had access to every type of enchant, letting me put ultimate enchants I wouldn't normally have access to on my weapons, and allowing me to buy and sell tier 6 and tier 7 level enchants, which I didn't necessarily need any right now, but I did have a collection of some of them I was saving. So I sold all those, which selling them gave me around 100 million coins. And with that, I bought everything else I would need. I bought a legendary bat and candy talisman from the fearmonger. I then spent a few million coins to make a somewhat max set of mastiff armor, which that combined with a mana flux and healing wand I also crafted allowed me to unlock the legendary campfire badge. I brewed a rabbit potion, bought an enchanted lava bucket, and crafted an emerald blade for Romero to unlock the epic ring of love. And I upgraded a few more of my talisman to finish off my accessory bag. I then used enrichments, powers, and tuning points to optimize my accessories for attack speed and increasing my damage per second. Once that was done, I crafted a tarantula helmet and completely maxed it like I did with the Frozen Blaze helmet to give it a proper comparison between the two. And finally, I decided to also craft a whole new sword, the Reaper Falchion. This is the best sword to kill zombies with, as not only do you do 200% damage to them, but you also heal yourself every hit. And since I was now a high enough rev level, I crafted it, reforged it, recombobulated it, added hot potato books, fumings, and art of war, and finally one for all to maximize my damage. I also did this all to the emerald blade to give me a proper comparison, because I would still need my emerald blade for everything except for revs. Now it's time for the damage test. With Frozen Blaze and a Reaper Falchion, 230,000, which compared to the 150,000 the One for All Emerald Blade did with a 40 million coin purse was insane. But was the Tarantula helmet better? With the Reaper Falchion and full Frozen Blaze, I did 230k, and with the Tarantula helmet, 260k. This is miles ahead of where we started, which is great because now the real test begins. Can I beat a tier 5 rev? That surprisingly went a lot better than expected, and I'm glad my hundreds of millions of coins along with hundreds of hours did not go to waste. And not only that, but everything I made beside the Frozen Blaze helmet should be incredibly useful in upcoming challenges. That's all for now. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in a while, but there should be another one coming soon-ish. I'll see you later.